Hey everyone, I'm in the middle of a cold, so if I sound different or I'm short of breath sometimes or gross, awkward noises come out of my body, I apologize in advance, please excuse it. But what does Artifact Worker, Blaster Parts, Hooligan, Containment Crew, and Dr. Snickus all have in common? They all have their own flywheel, and in this video we're going to be adding another name to that list, Blasterforge. Now you may or may not have heard of Blasterforge before, but they make 3D printed accessories and full-on 3D printed blasters that they sell through their Etsy store, and they contacted me asking if I'd be interested in testing out their brand new flywheels, and of course I agreed to it because, well, I'm making a video on it. And they offer 2 different kinds of flywheels. They have the standard flywheel and they have the Ultra Crush flywheel, which are both made from acetyl or acetyl, I'm not really sure how you say that word, which is like a kind of Delrin, which gives it a very smooth finish, and it's actually the same thing that Containment Crew uses for their Cyclone wheels. Just like in my other flywheel videos, we're going to start with the size and weight of the wheels and how they compare to other flywheels on the market right now, and then we'll move into the chronograph data. So let's start with the standard wheels. The standard Blasterforge flywheel measures in at an inner diameter of 34.89 and 34.91 millimeters with an outer diameter of 36.17 and 36.13, a 1.22 and 1.28 difference between inner and outer diameters. Compared to Cyclones and Worker wheels, the BF wheels are about 1.18 and 1.05 millimeters wider respectively, making them the second widest wheels that I've tested so far. I'll have a link below to the screen cap of my tower of wheels that I've used in a previous video so you can see what all the other wheels measure up to and compare them to this one if you would like. The weight for the standard wheel comes in at 12.69 grams per wheel, which is 4.94 grams heavier than the Containment Crew Cyclones, who held the record previously at 7.75 grams. So with both a wider diameter and a heavier weight, you're going to want to use some torquey motors to run the Blasterforge standard wheels in your build. One thing to note about these standard wheels is that they will require you to cut up the stock cage if you want to run them in that. They will fit in OFP cages just fine, and they just barely fit in Artifact Red cages. They won't fit in things like the Containment Crew cages, the Hawkeye cages, or the Alice Coat Duck cages because they're just a bit too big for the design. For chronographing, I put the standard wheels in a stock cage with Hellcats running off of a Turnigy 3S LiPo. Now, a note about these wheels, Blasterforge said that these are better suited for 41.5 to 42 millimeter cages, but I put mine in a stock crush setup or a 43.5 millimeter cage for a more fair comparison to other wheels that are on the market. And if you're interested in seeing the chronograph data in all of its detailed glory, there'll be a link to the Google Doc in the description. With my setup, the wheels shot an average of 138.02 FPS with stock darts, 140.49 with Raytheon waffles, and 149.67 with Koosh darts. And now I did shoot some hardtip Econs as well, but the FPS readings fluctuated between 96 and 120 FPS with massive drops in RPM. So I do not recommend using hardtip darts with these wheels. And when compared to Cyclones, these had an increase of 8 FPS over the average reading for stock darts and 11.81 FPS over the average reading with Koosh. The other option is what Blasterforge calls their Ultra Crush wheel. The Ultra Crush wheels have an inner diameter of 35.58 and 35.55 millimeters with an outer diameter of 36.98 and 36.96. That's a 1.4 and 1.41 millimeter difference, making them the widest wheels available on the market so far. Not only are they the widest offering, but they're also the heaviest, weighing in at 13.57 grams each. That's 0.88 grams heavier than the standard Blasterforge wheel and 1.7 times heavier than the Containment Crew Cyclones. And with that width comes very low cage compatibility. The only cage that I had on hand that would actually fit with these wheels are OFP cages. And just like with the standard wheels, Blasterforge did have a note for these saying that they are mostly for 42 to 43 millimeter crush cages. Now, I originally only tested a 42 millimeter cage because I had forgotten that OFP offers a stock crush cage setup, so I ordered one of those as well, and now I have readings for both a 42 and a 43.5 millimeter cage. Not only am I switching out the cages, but I also switched out the Hellcats for fangs. Hellcats were shooting in the 90s and low 100s in the 42 millimeter cage, and the fangs really helped those readings after they are swapped out. So fangs are used for the 43.5 millimeter cage in this case, as well as the 42 millimeter cage, so just keep that in mind. Let's start with the more stockish crush setup, the 43.5mm cage. The Ultra Crush wheels got an average of 146.18 FPS with stock darts, 143.29 with Raytheon waffles, and 150.04 with Koosh. Hard-tipped E-kind darts shot 120 to 130s with an extremely high chance of jamming, so they are also not recommended for these wheels. And compared to Cyclones, the Ultra Crush wheels had a 16 FPS higher average with stock darts and 12 FPS higher average with Koosh darts. In the 42mm cage, stock darts got an average of 149.44 FPS, Raytheon waffles got an average of 144.65, and Koosh with an average of 167.52. When compared to the 43.5mm cage average, that's a plus 3.26 FPS with stock darts, plus 1.36 FPS with Raytheon waffles, and plus 17.48 FPS with Koosh. For those of you who want to use Ultra Crush wheels in a higher crushing setup like a 42mm cage, I would recommend not only using a higher torque motor, but one that also has a good amount of RPM to really zing those darts out of there. So I would say something like the Wolverine would be perfect for this. So the Blasterforge flywheels, what is my conclusion on them? Well, they're not bad at all. Not only are they the highest FPS shooting wheels that I've tested thus far, and may get even higher FPS in a more proper setup, but they are priced pretty competitively to other flywheels at $17 per pair before shipping for either one of the wheel sets. However, they do have a big downside, which is cage compatibility. For these to fit nicely, you're very limited to what cages you can use. Like I said earlier, for the standard wheels, you need to cut the stock shell, but they will fit perfectly fine in an OFP cage and just barely fit into an Artifact Red. Whereas for the Ultra Crush wheels, all you really have are OFP cages from what I tested, which means your options are really, really slim. There is a good part of that downside in that OFP cages are pretty easily attainable. You either need a 3D printer, know someone who has a 3D printer, or have a seller that is willing to ship to where you are. So while the compatibility is very slim, it's very easy to get your hands on an OFP cage, so it kind of balances out depending on how you look at it. Another downside that I found is something you may or may not agree with being a downside, and that is the flywheel fit on a motor shaft. These wheels are super duper tight and remind me of the Hooligan wheels. I had to take my motor, put the top of it on an edge of a shelf, and then just push with my body weight against the flywheel to get it on. So they're very, very tight. Some people like that, some people don't. There's arguments for both sides. However, Blasterforge says this is kind of like a characteristic that their wheels have a very tight fit. So take it or leave it, positive, negative, neutral, I don't know, depends on the person. Because of limited cage compatibility and the very tight flywheel fit, I can't give these a Bobo Must Buy award, but I will be giving them a Bobo-tested, Bobo-approved label for bringing more variety to the market, especially for flywheels in general, because you know I love that, and for pushing the FPS limits that we can get, especially from a single-stage blaster, which is a lot of fun. If you're interested in getting a set for yourself or maybe for someone else, as always, there is a link in the description to where you can buy these wheels. A big thank you to Blasterforge for contacting me and sending me these wheels for testing. Very, very cool of them. And thank you for watching this video filled with numbers and data and stuff. It's not that interesting, but if you stuck it out this far, awesome. And thank you. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video and have a great day wherever you are.